السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. رب يسر ولا تؤسر وتممه لنا بالخير. يا فتاه يا فتاه يا فتاح. Brothers and sisters, we are grateful, thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His numerous bounties and blessings in our lives. Wallahi, if we were all to gather together and to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to remember and share our bounties, we will not be able to share the bounties and of course define the greatness and the mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that if you were to count the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would not be able to. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu saw a man in the time of his khilafah, while he was walking in the streets with his companions, that there was a man who was unable to see. And sight being such a great ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine for a few seconds if you were not able to see what's around you. Just imagine for a few seconds if you did not know what was going around you, even by just the blink of an eye, closing your eyes and seeing the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Umar radiallahu anhu saw a man that he was not able to see. And there are so many across the globe who are not able to see. Umar radiallahu anhu saw that same man who was unable to even hear, and unable to speak, and unable to move and mobilize from his own place. Imagine this person. No sight, no hearing, no speaking, no mobility. Umar radiallahu anhu, looking at this man's condition, asked his companions, do you see anything in this man for what he should be thankful for? Do you see any blessing in this man's life? So many of the companions said, oh Umar, we see nothing. What can he be grateful? He cannot see, he cannot speak, he cannot listen, he cannot move. What can he be thankful for? So Umar radiallahu anhu said, for every single breath that this man takes and inhales and exhales, it's a ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just on the note as a practical, sometimes we hear things and we say, oh brother, that was 1400 years ago. Tell me something about now. At this current moment, my older brother Adnan, for some of you who know him, his brother-in-law, his wife's younger brother, 26 years of age, got hospitalized 2 weeks ago. Please make dua for his shifa as well. May Allah give him health and speedy recovery. They got him into a hospital just to give you that feeling, just to give you that notion of these things exist in front of our eyes. These are not stories that I'm telling you from 1400 years ago. This young man, 27 years old, got admitted to a hospital because of a high fever, 105. Turned out that he had pneumonia from his lungs. Turns out that 105 fever has caused a stroke in his mind, which caused the collapse of his lungs, which made happen such that he was breathing in, but he couldn't exhale. 27 years old. He was breathing in the oxygen, but couldn't exhale the carbon dioxide. Wasn't able to. Look at this, look at the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For all of you who have been sitting here from the morning till now, may Allah reward you and bless you. How much and how many gallons and liters and you name it of the gases and the airs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have we been benefiting. Our systems have been functioning perfectly fine without even recognizing and knowing. Now what ended up happening was that he was breathing in, couldn't exhale, they operated upon him. And subhanAllah, what happened? Just with that blink of an eye, he had a cardiac arrest and the heart started to stop functioning. For 30 seconds, there was no beating of the heart. And imagine a person, 30 seconds, there's no beat of the heart. With that didn't end up just like that. Now all the fluids that are going inside, they are not exiting his body. So they even have to perform dialysis on a man who's 27 years old. For us, we've been enjoying our waters and our juices and our coffees and all the things that we have without ever worrying that how we're going to treat all these things. Because these are the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's not something far away. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from amongst the grateful slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The grateful servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises in the Quran that when you are grateful, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I promise to increase for you. I have some youth who are sitting here. I'm going to ask you a quick question. Fill in the blanks, the young kids, any one of you. And I'm not going to define who young is, so I'm not going to hold anyone accountable. So anyone who considers themselves young can answer this. Fill in the blanks. If you are grateful, I will increase for you. If you are ungrateful, blank. Decrease. Thank you. Yes. Decrease. That's perfectly fine. You can repeat. You can repeat an answer that someone has given. If you are grateful, I will increase. If you're ungrateful, blank. Decrease. Decrease. I'll snatch away. Taken away. What else? Any other answer? Remove. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. The answer that the brother gave, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if you are grateful to me, my blessings and bounties and favors, He says, I will increase for you. And then He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ. And when you are ungrateful, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not use any other word for being ungrateful except for kufr. Because being ungrateful is attaching yourself with disbelieving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rejecting His ni'mah means rejecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then He said, He doesn't say, yes, I would have definitely said decrease as well. That would have been my answer. If I did not know Quran, if I didn't read the Quran, I would have definitely said it. That's the answer that I would have given. But the Quran says something different. The Quran says, وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. Then you have called upon the wrath of Allah. Then you have called upon the wrath of Allah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tonight to make us from amongst the grateful slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give us gratitude and thankfulness in every moment, in every moment, in every condition of our life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us lives that are content, and we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at every moment. Brothers and sisters, our theme for this year is Pathway to Jannah, which is the 7th year of continuously hosting these programs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward the brothers and sisters for doing a tremendous job. I said this before as well, I repeat myself. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you in this world with respect and dignity and honor. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase for you in akhirah as well. For those that we know and those that we do not know who have helped in organizing such a beautiful gathering, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase for you in many, many folds. And allow you to do this work of khair and make this the means of hidayat and guidance for the humanity till the day of Qiyamah. The topic, the theme for this year's conference, or the Pathway to Jannah event itself, is racial equality and injustices, and how racism and all of these bigotry affect the life and what Islam and Muslims need to do in such times. The topic that I have for this particular session is from a verse of the Quran from Surah Hujraat. Surah Hujraat is a very, very beautiful surah. Surah Hujraat itself, and I'm going to ask the organizers to forgive me for a few seconds. I'm going to come to my topic, but I'm going to share with you a few lessons from Surah Hujraat before I come to this very ayat of the Quran itself. So Surah Hujraat itself is the 49th surah of the Quran. It is a surah which is of course known as the Madani surah. There are two types of surahs in the Quran. A Meccan surah, a Madani surah. Why are they known as Makki and Madani surahs? Because any surah that is revealed, yes, you want to tell us? Say it, go ahead man, don't worry about it. Say it.
Mufti Farhan is a surah that was revealed in Makkah. Jannah surah was a surah that was revealed in Medina.
So that's kind of right. But there were certain surahs which were revealed nowhere. Meaning they were revealed in no man's land. But they're still known as certain surah, right? So there has to be a better definition. There has to be a more precise definition, more inclusive definition. So the more inclusive definition, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to disregard your definition, but Meccan surah or Madni surah can be defined in a term that anything. Rasulullah ﷺ became the Prophet of Allah at the age of 40. He passed away and left the face of this earth at the age of 63. Now these 23 years of the time of the prophecy, that's known as the time of Nabuwah, the prophecy of Muhammad ﷺ. His 13 years he spent in Mecca are known as the Meccan era. His time that he spent in Madinatul Munawwara, the last 10 years of his life from age 53 to 63, is known as the Medina or the Madani phase of the life of the Prophet of Allah ﷺ. Any surah, any ayah, or any particular chapter that has been revealed in the beginning 13 years of his life is known as a Meccan surah, or Meccan portion of a surah. Anything that is revealed in the last 10 years of his life is known as the Madani surah, even though it might not happen in Medina Munawwara. The ayah of the Quran, Inna fatahna laka fatham mubina, was revealed where? It was revealed in Hudaybiyah, right? It was revealed in the outskirts, nowhere in Mecca, nowhere in Medina. It was revealed in a place which is known as Hudaybiyah. So this surah is not known as Surah al-Hudaybiyah. It's not a Hudaybiyan surah, but it's known as a Makki and a Madani surah related to its time frame when it was revealed. Hujraat, which is the 49th surah of the Quran, is referred to as a Madani surah, and of course the context of its surah of the Quran, it is known as Al-Hujraat because of the chambers. The word Al-Hujraat means chambers itself. I'm not going to get into more linguistic, metaphoric definition, but I want to give you some lessons from the surah before I come to the topic from verse number 13 for tonight. The surah itself contains 18 ayats of the Quran, I think. 18 ayats of the Quran. So Surah Al-Hujraat, which is chapter 49, contains 18 verses of the Quran. I'm going to share with you 9 advices from this very beautiful surah of the Quran, and then I'm going to come towards tonight's topic. Number 1, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the surah of the Quran is teaching us few adab, few lessons. These lessons relate to human, people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Muslims to Muslims, Muslims to non-Muslims, meaning our relationships in general, how we need to adapt a moral or characteristics features in our life. So amongst these things, the first thing that I share with you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shares with us in Surah Al-Hujraat. The first one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said is, فَتَبَيَّنُوا فَتَبَيَّنُوا. What is this lesson? This lesson itself means investigate. And wallahi, I don't have time to discuss every single portion of it, but I want to leave you with the golden advices within Surah Al-Hujraat before our tonight's topic. Investigate means what? فَتَبَيَّنُوا. What does that actually mean? What is it that for me to take back? 1430 plus years ago, 40 years ago, this Quran was revealed. What is it for me in 2018 from فَتَبَيَّنُوا? The ayat of the Quran is saying investigate. What does that actually mean? When you receive an information, when you receive something from someone via text message, through social media, through individual conversations, or any means of receiving something, as we are recipients at all times, then the ayah of the Quran says that you must investigate the information that you have received, lest you harm people out of your own ignorance. That's an adab that Allah is teaching us. The surah is full of adab and etiquettes itself. Surah Hujraat is full of adab and etiquettes. I'm going to share with you 9 of them before our tonight's topic about racism and equality. So number 1 is فَتَبَيَّنُوا. Investigate. Find the truth. Seek the truth, lest that news that you receive will harm others because of your ignorance. Brothers and sisters, what's happening now through the entire social media? You receive something and it says if you share this with 10 people, you're going to get 10 barakats tonight. What? Seriously? If you don't share this, you're going to get 10 harms like that. Or this is going to happen. And we are so quick in sharing these things that we don't think that we will be held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hadith of Rasulullah said, anyone who associates a saying to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which he has never said, then remember to make your abode in the fire of Jannah. We're so quick into saying the hadith of Rasulullah. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, a man Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahu Akbar. Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu is a man that I love to speak about. Everyone wishes for Jannah, but Jannah wishes for Abu Bakr. Rasulullah said, 8 doors will call the name of the son of Abu Quhafa, that's Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. For everyone I have fulfilled the haqq of Abu Bakr only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill. For everyone have chosen a Khalil. If it was for me, Rasulullah is saying, if it was for me, I would have taken you as a Khalil, O Abu Bakr. Such love that he had for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu had a compilation of the hadith of the Prophet I think 500 in number. Before the demise and passing away of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, he called his daughter, Aisha radiyallahu anhu, the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Aisha, burn this for me. I do not want anyone to hold accountable. I do not want anyone to relate anything on my behalf. If I would have been made a mistake, that I will be held accountable on the day. So conscious about relating the words of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now how, as ummah today, we just go ahead and spread as much as we can. We discredit anything that we hear. So the first adab that Surah Hujraat is teaching us is fatabayyan. Investigate. Lest that information will harm you and others because of our jahiliyyah and ignorance. That's number one message in the surah of the Quran. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَأَصْلِحُوا Allah. فَأَصْلِحُوا. The second adab that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us in this ayat of the Quran is to make settlements, to join ties, let go of your differences, let go of your breakups. It's time to join. It's no time to be separated. It's time to join for aslihu, between your brothers as believers are brothers. Join between. Wallahi, I feel so, hurt sometimes. A man came to me and he said, it's been 30 years that I have not spoken to my brother. 30 years I have not spoken to my brother. And he was saying it so proudly, like he was doing something amazing. But we do not understand the harms of it. Faqih Abu Lays As-Samarqandi rahmatullah alayhi has written in his Kitab Tabi'ul Ghafilin, he writes that if there is a gathering of individuals, and there is even one person in that gathering who breaks ties which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made to join together as the ties of kinship, silatul raham, because of the presence of that individual, the dua of all the people in that gathering will not be accepted. Faqih Abu Lays mentions, if one person who breaks the kinship and ties of silatul raham is present in a gathering, the dua of no one will be accepted, according to Faqih Abu Lays. So second thing, the Quran, the Surah Hujraat is teaching us, chapter 49, Surah Hujraat is saying, فَأَصْلِحُوا. Number one was what? What was number one, guys? فَتَبَيَّنُوا. فَتَبَيَّنُوا means to investigate. Make sure that you do not let the information that comes to you spread to others through ignorance, which will harm you and others. What's number two? The guys in the back, leaning against the wall. Well, what's number two? Yes, فَأَصْلِحُوا. So joining the relationship, فَأَصْلِحُوا, right? To join the ties together, فَأَصْلِحُوا, is something that the Quran is teaching us. Let go of your differences. Rasulullah said, I have never seen two footsteps which are more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than footsteps which are taken towards the masjid and footsteps which are taken towards reconciliation of issues between two people. Rasulullah said, I've never seen two footsteps which are greater than these two footsteps. Masjid and reconciliation of issues and differences. Rasulullah said, if you want, Allahu Akbar, if you want that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should increase your rizq, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should increase your rizq, then better your akhlaq and join relationships. Now a question should come from your side. You should ask me a question. How can your life be prolonged? Your ajal, your maut, and your death has already been written. How is this hadith telling me that your life will be prolonged? I think you should have that question, right? Isn't that a question? That the hadith is saying, better your akhlaq and join your relationship and your life will be prolonged. How is that possible when my maut is already written in the womb of our mothers? Scholars have given few answers. Number one, the first answer is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you such barakah and blessings in your life that you will accomplish certain things and goals in your life in 20, 30, 40 years that people will take 50, 60, 70 years to accomplish. Which means that Allah has prolonged your life. What people would accomplish many, many years and decades, Allah will give you in few years. Number one. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you awlad, progeny, in which when you leave this world, they will continue the amal and actions of khayr, of goodness. And when people will see these people, they will say, you know what? He or she is the son or the daughter of so-and-so. So their names will remain on the face of this earth, even though they are not here anymore. When you see someone and you say, you know what? That person's father was so pious, man. That's why his son or his daughter is still doing the work of khayr. The father and mother is not even here no more. But the khayr continues for that individual. So Rasulullah said, join your relationship with your relatives. Allah will prolong your life. What does it mean? Allah will give you barakah. And Allah will take the work of deen from your progeny and your children. So number two advice that Surah Al-Hujraat is giving us. And that is, فَأَصْلِحُوا. Reconcile your issues. Don't keep grudges, brothers and sisters. This life is too short to keep grudges for others. What is the grudges and hates for others going to do to us? It's just going to give me headaches. Forget about it. The only enemy that all of us have is shaitan. We have no enemy. In Islam teaches us to hate ma'asi, not ta'asi. Islam teaches us to hate the sin, not the sinner. No matter who she is, no matter who he is. That's the rulings in Islam. Hate the sin, not the sinners. We have no enemies. We hate no one. فَأَصْلِحُوا, join, reconcile. Don't keep grudges of others in your heart. You will live a very comfortable life. Such a comfortable life as the Amr ibn As mentioned when he was told by Rasulullah's majlis and gathering that I saw a man of Jannah. He says, the only thing that I know in my life that I do is that I keep no ill feelings about anyone in my heart. I don't hate anyone. I have no ill feelings. So number 2, فَأَصْلِحُوا. Number 3, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَأَقْسِتُوا. وَأَقْسِتُوا. This is Surah Hujraat. And forgive me, I haven't even come to my topic tonight. Number 3 is, وَأَقْسِتُوا. Surah Hujraat's 9th lesson. Number 3, the Surah Hujraat is teaching us, وَأَقْسِتُوا. وَأَقْسِتُوا means what? That treat each and every individual with justice. Keep us justice in front of us. What that means is, whether there is a dispute, try for settlement, act justly. Be just. Even though you may have to speak against those that you love the most. When it's justice, when it's adl, when it's righteousness, stand even if it's against your own loved ones. Even if it's against your own race, your color, and your own family members. When it's adl and justice, speak the truth. Don't wait for any individual. That's number 3. وَأَقْسِتُوا. Stand for justice. The ayat of the Quran. Act justly. Whenever there is a dispute, try your settlements and act justly amongst both parties, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who act justly, the Quran says itself. That's the 3rd lesson. Number 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَلَا يَسْخَرْ. وَلَا يَسْخَرْ. The adab of people and when you relate with others. وَلَا يَسْخَرْ means do not ridicule any person. Do not ridicule. Sisters, we're just going to ask you if you can hold down the brothers and the sisters on the side. I know a lot of sisters, I'm not saying that I can hear you, I'm perfectly fine, I'm not being bothered. But whenever I usually go through events, a lot of times sisters at the end write notes and said we made so much effort to come to the masjid and we were trying our best to listen, but there were certain kids who were making so much noise that all the attention of the sisters was gone. So we ask, if you have children, let the sisters benefit from the gatherings. A lot of time, mashallah, you get a lot of opportunities to listen to the talks. If sisters, you have kids with you who are bothering you, then send it to your parents. I wouldn't say this if my wife was there. Otherwise, all the time the kids would be with me. But if the sisters need some help with taking care of the kids, please send them to your spouses. Maybe they can help you a little bit. Because, wallahi, I tell you from my own experience, that every time at the end of the conference or convention or event, the sister always said that we really wanted to come and listen to the talks, but there was so much noise in the sister's side that we couldn't listen attentively. For you, you are here, you're present, I can relate to you. Sometimes they're behind the walls, they are unable to have that attention, but because of the noise, the sisters are unable to focus. So, sisters, if you need help in that, make sure that you contact the organizers or your spouses, inshallah, they will definitely help you. Number 4 thing in Surah Hujraat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, وَلَا يَسْخَرْ. Do not ridicule. Do not ridicule people. Perhaps they may be better than you in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never put down anyone. Allahu Akbar. I remember the sayings. It is mentioned that, if you have ever listened to, I love history itself. If you ever seen the Mongol Empire, Genghis Khan and all this stuff, the Mongols' great-grandson accepted Islam. Genghis Khan himself, he never accepted Islam. And when he had assassinated and killed hundreds and thousands of Muslims, in which the skulls of the Muslims had become mountains, and the ilm and the books were thrown into streams which became black with the ink itself, and the streams of Muslims' blood were flowing in the streets like rivers used to do so, he stood on top of a mountain and Genghis said, I have been sent as a punishment from your Lord upon you because of your acts. He said this, if you read the books of Genghis and what people have written about his history. His great-grandson accepted Islam. In the Mongols' empire, he accepted it. And how did he accept Islam? Was because of this one beautiful statement, Ajib. وَلَا يَسْخَرْ. Do not ridicule anyone. Do not put anyone down. You never know what is the ending of any individual. So amongst the shuyukh, or the great scholars of the time, his name was Shaykh Jamaluddin Rahimahullah Ta'ala. He was walking in the streets while the time of Fajr, the Adhan came. He gave the Fajr Adhan, and the grandson of the Mongol Empire, Genghis Khan, heard him. So when he heard this Adhan, he called him. And he says, bring this man, capture him. What is he doing, making this loud noise here? When he was captivated, he was brought inside the court of the grandson of Genghis Khan. He asked this man, what are you? He said, I'm a Muslim. He said, what are you doing? He said, I'm calling the Adhan, I have to pray. So to ridicule this individual, the grandson, who afterwards became Muslim, he asked Sheikh Jamaluddin, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, are you better or my dog better? There was a dog there. He says, are you better or my dog better? So he says, unfortunately, I can't give you a reply at the moment. When I have the right answer, I will give you the reply. He said, before passing away, Shaykh Jamaluddin rahmatullah alayhi recited the kalima. And he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. I bear witness that there is no one worthy of worship but Allah, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. He's dying on Iman now. So he sends his son as an envoy, a messenger, and to the grandson of Genghis Khan and said, if I would have died without Iman and belief, then my dog would have been better than you. Then your dog would have been better than me. But because I'm dying with Iman and faith, now I can finally say that I'm better than your dog. Never ridicule anyone. You never know where hidayat and guidance is. Never look down at any individual. When hidayat is destined, Allah can give hidayat to any individual. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, people said the animals of Mecca can accept Islam. What is this guy going to do? Rasulullah sallallahu said, لَوْ كَانَ بَعْدَ نَبِيًّا لَكَانَ عُمَرٍ. Umar radiallahu anhu one day said, people rush into decisions, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't. And then he remembered a story which was shared by Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu mentions it was the day of Hajj. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed his Hajj. He did the Ramya Jamarat of the stones of 7 thrones towards Jamar al-Aqaba, the big shaitan. He pelted the 7 stones. The Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came back. He sacrificed 63 camels with his own hands. 37 rest were given to the Sahaba to sacrifice. 100 qurbani and sacrifice from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he sat down. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sat. The barber, the person, the Sahabi who was going to shave the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came. He began to clean the hair from the right side of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was the Sunnah. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, I saw a man very closely, sitting close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and whenever the hair were being shaven and cut, this man would catch the hair and would not allow them to fall to the ground. From my amazement, I said, who is this person? He said, I came close to this person and I found out that he is the same person who wrote the treaty against the Muslims in Hudaybiyah. And his name was Sahal bin Amr. And he was the same man who caused the Muslims to erase the name Muhammad Rasulullah and said, write Muhammad the son of Abdullah. I'm not going to accept Muhammad Rasulullah. That same man who wrote such a harsh treaty against the Muslims. In the 6th year, within the 4-year period, Allah gave him hidayat to that. Don't ridicule anyone. Don't look down at anyone. You never know when hidayat and guidance is meant for any individual. So the hadith is saying, the Quran is saying, وَلَا يَسْخَرْ. Do not ridicule. Don't look down at anyone. Number 5, وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا. وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا. The 5th thing that the Quran is teaching us, Surah Hujraat, the lesson is, do not call each other with offensive names. Do not call each other with offensive names, which Maulana Sahib Shaykh Quran was mentioning this before as well. That how we have given titles and stereotypes to individuals just by the colors of their skins, by the areas that they come from. So the Quran is saying, وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا. Do not call each other with nicknames and titles that will be offensive towards them. وَلَا تَلَامِزُوا. And do not insult one another. Do not insult. Rasulullah said, do you know what is the worst of the zina? Do you know what is the worst of adultery and fornication? The Sahaba say, Ya Rasulullah, we do not know. The Nabi of Allah said, when a Muslim is being insulted in front of your own eyes, you're not doing anything. When a person is being insulted and you do not do anything. So the Quran is teaching us, the 6th lesson, Surah Hujraat is teaching us, وَلَا تَلَامِزُوا, which means do not insult one another. Number 7, اجتنبوا كثيرا من الذنب. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, the 7th thing in Surah Hujraat is avoid negative assumptions. Do not think, oh, I think he's like that. I think she is like that. I think they are like this. False and negative assumptions. assuming, oh, they are like this, he is like this. Assumptions, one, when we think bad about false preconceived notions in our mind. So the Quran is saying, اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us in the Quran, avoid negative assumptions. Indeed, these assumptions at the end of the day will lead you towards sins. Two more things before I come to my topic. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. And do not spy upon each other. I mentioned to you the story in the afternoon of Umar radiallahu anhu, when he jumped inside the house of a man and he said, oh Umar, I committed one mistake of drinking alcohol. You committed three sins. You're doing tajassus, you're spying upon me. And last but not least, the ninth advice in Surah Al-Hujraat for tonight's topic, وَلَا يَغْتَبْ. And do not backbite each other. Do not backbite each other. It is indeed a major sin equivalent to eating your dead brother's flesh. I was listening to one of the scholars, he said something so ajib, touched my heart. He said, certain areas in the world are known that they are the people who eat the most meat, right? As Mufti Farhan was the Imam, Farhan was mentioning that some areas are known for rice and bread and fish and all that, right? He was saying that stuff, I think I was awake. So, just like that, a lot of areas across the globe are known, there are the people who eat a lot of meat. They eat a lot of goat, they eat a lot of cow, like meat, they are known for that. Even I come from a Pakistan area, certain areas are known that these are the people who eat cow, these are the people who eat goat. The scholar said something ajib. He says, do you know the meat which is the most eaten across the globe? Is the meat of your own brothers and sisters. It's the meat of your own brothers and sisters. It's the ghiba that we do for others. More than any other meat that is eaten. It's the ghiba that we do for our brothers and sisters. Not even knowing. Al-ghibatu ashaddu min az-zina. If you see an individual commit adultery and fornication, you won't look at this person. Imagine you see an individual in an act of adultery and fornication, you won't be able to look at them the same way. You won't be able to relate to that individual the same way. But the hadith of Rasulullah is saying that slandering and gossiping and backbiting is worse than committing adultery. So the ninth thing that Surah Hujraat is teaching us, وَلَا يَغْتَبْ بَعْضُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that do not backbite. Do not backbite. Morals and ethics that the Quran is teaching us. Let's get back to tonight's topic. So this is Surah Hujraat. This is a nutshell of the 49th Surah of the Quran, 9 things that I just mentioned to you. Let's get to the ayah of the Quran that I want to share with you. Surah Hujraat, 49 surah, has 18 verses of the Quran. The topic that I was given was verse number 13. Let's go over this verse of the Quran. Ya ayyuhan nas. The Quran is speaking to mankind in general, which means that the Quran is not specifically speaking to those who have believed or those who are the people of Iman. It's generally for the entire humanity. For those who want to take a message, you can learn from any person. Wallahi, if you really want to learn, you can learn from anyone. My father usually tells me the story. In Urdu, I will try to translate that in English. He said there was a kid with a lot of adab, a lot of etiquette. So someone asked this kid, where did you learn all of this adab and etiquette that you have in your life? He says, uncle, I learned my adab from all the be-adab. Be-adab means people who have no adab, no etiquettes, no morals, no ethic, no character. A child who had so much adab, he said, uncle, I learned my adab from those who have no adab. Be-adab se adab sikhane. I learned adab from those who have no adab and no etiquettes. Adab itself means moral, ethics, characteristics. So the uncle was surprised and said, how can you learn adab, morals, ethics, from a person who has no morals and ethics? He says, I don't do what he does. I don't do what he does. If you want to learn, you can learn from anyone. If you don't want to learn, we'll close the doors from even the closest places from our own selves. So now, the Quran is telling us, Ya ayyuhan nas, speaking to mankind. If you're a believer, if you're not a believer. If you want to learn, look at the Quran. If you want to learn, look at the Quran. Because there is nothing which is as profound and exemplary and beautiful than Quran itself. I'm going to ask apologies to the organizer. I'm going to deviate for 2 minutes again from my topic. The beauty of Quran. Everything is profound. Everything is perfect. Everything is right on point. this Jummah I was talking about this. I said, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Tabarakallah, Surah Mulk, the surah that Rasulullah would recite every single night before going to sleep. Rasulullah said, I know a surah of the Quran which has 30 verses of the Quran. Anyone who recites this, no adab of qabr when they pass it. Right? The hadith of Rasulullah. So in this surah of the Quran, what is the second verse? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Tabarakalladhi biyadihi al-mulku wa lahu kullu shay'in. I think I've just recited that, right? Subhanallah. So the second ayat of the Quran, Alladhi khalaqa al-mawta wal-hayat. Alladhi khalaqa al-mawta wal-hayat. For many of you who don't know Arabic, can still make out the meaning. Alladhi, that deity, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, khalaq means to create. Khalaqa al-mawt wal-hayat. Mawt means what? Death. Hayat means what? Life. Hayat means life. So the meaning of this verse of the Quran more or less to effect means Alladhi khalaqa al-mawta wal-hayat. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that tabarak, that beautiful that deity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is who? Alladhi khalaqa al-mawt wal-hayat. The one who created death and life. But I want you to ask me a question. Do you know what question I'm asking you? Or I want you to ask me? Think about it. That's a good question. That's a very good question. But I want you to think harder. I told you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He created life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Alladhi khalaqal mawta wal hayat. He created death and life. I want you to ask me a question that you understand from this ayah of the Quran.
Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned death first?
SubhanAllah, very good. Jazakallah khair. Exactly what I was looking for. Were you in my Jummah khutbah this week? Okay. I was about to say. So now, the Quran is saying we created death and life. Any intellectual mind should come up with a question by saying that if you are saying Quran is so perfect and precise, then why is there death before life? How can we die before we live? Because the Quran is proportionally perfect in all manners. If you have any physicians in this room, there might be some physicians, I'm not too aware of the community, it might be physicians. When a child is born, when a child is in the womb of the mother, the first thing that a child is given as abilities is that the child can hear, and then the child can see. The ability to hear of a child is given before the child can see. Because your hearing allows you to be an equal point between your two sides of your brain. Your hearing allows you to have a stable brain itself. That's why you are given the ability to listen before you see. That's scientifically proven. That every child in every womb of the mother is given the ability to listen before they can see. Wallahi, from the beginning of the Quran till the end of the Quran, open it. Anytime and every time Allah mentions the creation of a child, He said, Sami'an basira. He said, we made a child to listen and see. Never does Allah say to see and to listen. Never. Find it. Perfectly proportional Quran. There's nothing, it's just perfect. So now why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying He created death and life? That's a question. It's a very good question that I think that all of us should be asking from every verse of the Quran. Brothers and sisters, we don't ponder over the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't learn the Quran. We don't learn the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now the question is, why is the Quran saying death and life? Imam Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi in his kitab Arba'in al-Nawawi, which is the compilation of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, gives the answer in this. There's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that when a child is in the womb of the mother, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a malak, an angel. This angel comes with 4 things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deputes with this angel for that child. Amongst the 4 things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deputes for the child is the ajal, the time of death for the child. The child is not born. He has never seen the face of this earth. His mom and dad or her mom and dad does not even know the name of this child. No one has ever seen this child, but the hadith has mentioned that their death is destined even before their life is even in themselves. Their death is already written for them. Ajal, the time of death, is already written for them. So the Quran is saying, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةِ, that your death has been destined before your life has ever been given to you. So the Quran itself is profound. I can talk about this forever. Let's go back to the ayat of the Quran. So the Quran is saying, what is the Quran saying? Ya ayyuhan nas, The Quran is speaking to humanity, not believers, not those who are Muslims. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. No, not the believers. It's for the entire humanity to understand an aspect, a dilemma, or I would say a catastrophe that the entire humanity faces on a large scale. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. And now it brings another topic, but it's going to take too much time, so I'm going to skip that. Maybe I'll talk about that later. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna. Inna in Arabic means Jama, which means plural. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses a singular form for His own deity and that, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the form plural, and He says, Nahnu, or Ana, in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the form we. Why is the Quran using Ana, which is I, and the Quran is using we, which means us? Two different perspectives of the greatness of Allah. That's a different topic. It's going to take too much time, but I'm going to skip that part. But something to remember and do tahqiq and research from the scholars. So the Quran itself is saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, all the mankind, Inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, that we have made you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we have created you from a male and a female. We have created you from a male and a female. What does that mean? How do you define this thing? We means Adam and Eve, a man and a woman. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us, which means that we go back to one aspect, one couple, one individual, one couple from which the entire humanity started. We cannot go back and trace our lineage and say, my lineage is better than yours, as the Quraysh used to do. Wallahi, I was going through the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ in one of the points where I was talking about the uncle of Rasulullah ﷺ. And when I talked about the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, that hit me so bad, that so much love that he had for his uncle. He said, oh my uncle, just recite the kalima in my ear, and I will be the witness on the day of Qiyamah for shifa and intercession. And what was the reply of the uncle? What will my people, my Quraysh will say? That the time of death has scared this individual, and he recited it. Sometimes tribalism, sometimes being from a particular nation and group can take a person so far away, even though the hidayat and guidance is right in front of them, so close towards it. But anyways, going back to the side of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that indeed we have created you min dhakarin wa untha, from a single man and a single woman. From a single man and from a single woman, Adam and Eve. So when you go back to your lineage, you can't say I'm better than anyone else. You cannot say I'm better than anyone else. You all started from the same beginning. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلًا. And we have made you into the varieties of nations and tribes. And what is the reason of you being different? لِتَعَارَفُوا, so that you may know each other. So that you may know the attributes, the greatness, and the khalq and the taqliq and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the ayat of the Quran gives us the moral, the lesson, the take-back home message from this ayah of the Quran. That you have been created from a single soul of a man and a woman into tribes and nations. You look different, you speak different, you dress differently. Everything is different. But now who is the most noble amongst you? What makes you great? The Quran doesn't leave that behind. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines and mentions verily the noblest. Atqa, Allahu Akbar. The noblest amongst you is atqakum, is the one in the sight of Allah, the one who has the most consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A group of Sahaba came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, O Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the most noble amongst us? O Nabi of Allah, who is the most noble amongst us? So the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the most noble amongst you is the one who fears Allah the most. The one who has the most consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for youngsters, let me tell you something. Nobility doesn't come with things. Nobility doesn't come with things. You see a guy just drive over with a Rolls Royce or a Maserati or a Bugatti or a Phantom or whatever it is. What will you guys say? Look at that car, man. No one cares about that guy. Who cares about that person? Nobility don't come with things. You see Allah walk inside, he has patches on his clothing. And everyone rises up and says salam because of the nobility of an individual. Nobility don't come with things. You take away and you strip away things from people, where will be their nobility? Nobility is what's inside of an individual. So now going back to the ayat of the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, so the Sahaba said, going back to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the most noble amongst us? Simple answer, atqakum. The one who fears Allah the most. Sahaba were not satisfied with that. They understood. Sahaba were genius. They were the greatest individuals. Sahaba understood the issue. But they say, well, Nabi of Allah, this is not what we are asking. So Rasulullah ﷺ realized that these individuals are asking related to lineages, connections, and relationships. Because that's what the Arabs were known for. Why was Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu so famous? People loved sitting next to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Because he was the man of lineage. You sit down, you tell him your father's name, he will tell you your lineage in generations. So Arabs were known for their generations. So now, Rasulullah ﷺ said, if you're asking me related to your question, then the most noble amongst the humanity is Yusuf alayhi salam. And then Rasulullah ﷺ said, because his father, his grandfather, and great-grandfather, all four people were straight prophets without any non-prophet between them. If you're talking about lineage, if you're talking about nobility in the sense of who has the best family, then who can be better than Yusuf? Yaqub alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ishaq alayhi salam, and Yaqub alayhi salam. And then from there, Yusuf alayhi salam. Four Nabi, one after the other, one after the other, four Anbiya, four prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, this is not what we're asking. This is not what we're asking. So Prophet of Allah ﷺ, assessing the situation of Sahaba, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ said, خَيْرُكُمْ فِي الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ خَيْرُكُمْ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ إِذَا فَقَهُوا. The Prophet of Allah ﷺ said, the best of you are those who were the best prior to Islam, so long as they became obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your nobility is not taken away from you if you became a Muslim. Meaning, your nobility remains and your nobility increases by the way that you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So going back to this verse of the Quran, brothers and sisters, we got till what, 8:30? 8:45? The only thing between you and your dinner is me, so apologize in advance. I know it's very hard. One of the toughest things is being between the dinner of an individual. So I'm not going to make it too long because we got, inshallah, a few sessions tomorrow as well. But going back to this ayat of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking to the mankind in large, saying, oh humanity, we made you from a single soul of a man and a woman, we made you into tribes and nations, and then the Quran is saying, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Now, there are three things that we receive from this ayat of the Quran. Because my topic is verse number 13, three messages from this ayat of the Quran, few conclusions that I will share with you. Number one, the first message of this ayat of the Quran is, the origin of man is the same. And I use the word man, it's for the entire humanity. So the origin of humanity is the same, which we all come from and we begin from. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us into nations and tribes that we may know each other, so that we may relate to each other. I'll talk about that in just a few seconds. And the third message from this verse of the Quran is that the only basis of superiority and excellence that exists on the face of this earth is led by God consciousness. It is led by taqwa. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The word atqa doesn't only mean to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I've spoken about this previously as well. Many a times we said taqwa means to fear Allah. Imam Ghazali says the other. Imam Ghazali said, when you love someone, you are afraid of them. Not because they will beat you, just because they will leave you. When you love someone, you are afraid of them. Not because they will beat you, just because they will leave you. So the love of someone doesn't allow you to be disobedient to them because you love them so much. The taqwa that is required from us is that taqwa that we love Allah. Afraid is yes, be afraid. But your love of Allah should be so much that you can't disobey them. I always love giving this example. Two kids are sitting down. I ask the first child, go get your dad some water. He goes and gets water to his dad. I ask the second kid, go get some water for your dad. He goes and gets the water for his dad. I take him to the side. I ask the first kid, why did you get your dad the water? Forgive my English, I'm from Brooklyn. The dad said, bro, I'm not scared of my dad. You beat me. The first kid said, I'm scared of my dad. He'll beat me if I don't get the water. I asked the second kid, why did you get your dad the water? He says, I love my dad. I love my dad. Imagine the father or the mother listening to the answers of these two kids. The first child obeyed because of fear. He obeyed. The second child obeyed because of love. Obey Allah because you love Allah. Yes, you need to be afraid of Allah. But your love should be so much of Allah that you cannot disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. And unless that love of Allah, the fear of Allah, the consciousness of Allah is not there, then we will never, never be able to receive the level of nobility. Nobility in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only according to the consciousness. It's not about what we wear. It's not about what we have. It's not about who we know. It's all about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His consciousness. So let me share with you these 3 points. So let's go to the little bit details. Number 1, the origin of the entire humanity and mankind is the same, which means that all of us go back to one nobility, one single individual race itself. So today, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which shows the greatness and the qudrat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In spite of being in one origin, meaning starting from one origin, it was natural that we should be divided into nations and tribes, which is of course amongst the sifat and the qualities and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the last point that I want to emphasize upon a little bit more, as regards to the only basis of security and excellence related to taqwa, there are so many things that we can hear from the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number 1, I share with you an excerpt from the khutbah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on Fatah Makkah, the victory of Makkah. Victory of Makkah was an amazing thing for the Muslims. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he lived in Makkah for 13 years as the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was made to leave, he made the hijrah, he moved towards Medina. Now 8 years have passed. 8 years have passed. For those who have been to Makkah and Medina, may Allah take us again and again with afiyah, the love of that place is so strong. Wallah, you can never have enough. You can never have enough. You can have love, you can enjoy places across the globe, or you get tired of those places. But I personally think there are 2 things in this world that you can never have enough of. Quran and the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now, what happened is, Rasulullah sallallahu for 8 years have not seen the Kaaba. The Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam goes to Makkah victorious, which is known as the victory of Makkah, Fath al-Makkah, the famous day. 8 years after Hijrah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, 3 years before he passed away, at the age of 60. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam reached Makkah, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gave a khutbah. I'm going to share with you a small portion of that khutbah. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam exposed the insignificance of racism in his khutbah that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam delivered when he reached Makkah. And the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on the conquest of Makkah. And the conquest of Makkah was such an amazing thing that will be a topic to itself. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam categorized humans into 2 groups. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his khutbah of Hajj, which is known as the khutbah of the victory of Makkah, Fath al-Makkah khutbah, he categorized humanity into 2 groups. And those were righteous and sinful. Righteous and sinful. There was no other category that Rasulullah made amongst the humankind. And let me read to you a portion from the khutbah, which has been reported in Tirmidhi and Bayhaqi. Rasulullah said, all praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I praise Allah, thank God, who has removed from you the blemish of ignorance and its arrogance. Rasulullah is saying that I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that who has taken you away from the blemishes of ignorance and arrogance. And wallahi, these are 2 things which destroys the hearts of humanity. Ignorance, not knowing, and arrogance, which means false pride within ourselves. Takabbur, which makes us look down at others. I am better, we are stronger. All of these things are destructive towards the humanity. It builds nothing. I know I have to be politically correct, but say rather than walls, we need to build bridges. And that's something very important. It is not a pun towards anything, but that's a quotation for many years. Not that we are saying because of the political climates, but the importance of building bridges. So again, going back to Rasulullah's word, the Prophet of Allah said, I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has removed from you the blemishes of ignorance and arrogance. Because ignorance, jahiliyyah, not knowing, and wallahi, one of the scholars said something so beautiful. He said that ignorance Not knowing is no excuse in Islam. Forgetfulness is an excuse. A person, and I'll give you an example. A person on the day of Ramadan, man or a woman, in the morning, they're eating. And we asked them, why are you eating? So they said, I thought that we can eat fruits. I thought we couldn't eat food. Not knowing is no excuse. There is no excuse for that wrong. You must know. Ignorance is no excuse. This is the qaida, this is the rule in Islam. Ignorance is no excuse in Islam. Forgetfulness is an excuse. Forgetfulness is an excuse. So saying that I don't know doesn't make you any, free from any guilt. So again, Rasulullah said, I thank Allah, alhamdulillah, that I praise Allah, I'm thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thanks to God, who has removed from you the blemishes of ignorance and its arrogance. And then he said, oh people, men are divided into classes. And when we speak metaphorically, men and women, it means the entire humanity, mankind. Rasulullah said that humanity is divided into two classes. There's no upper class in this class and that class, and you fall in certain categories. Two classes Rasulullah mentioned. The pious and the righteous, which are one, who are honorable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the sinful and the vicious, who are in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the evildoers. Whereas all men are the children of Adam, and Adam has been created from clay, from dirt. So Rasulullah is telling them that arrogance and ignorance is something which disunited the entire humanity. Allah took away arrogance and ignorance from your life. Then Allah gave you the humanity, the sense of humanity. And the sense of humanity is that mankind is divided into two groups. A group of individuals who are living the life of piety and righteousness, which are muqarrab in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then there are a group of individuals who are sinful, who are doing the wrong themselves, and they are considered to be the evils. But again, I say this, brothers and sisters. I say this again that I mentioned in the morning. Islam teaches us to hate the sin but not the sinner. We can hate the sin but not the sinner. If we begin to hate the sinner, then how will they get hidayat and guidance? If we curse those who are doing the wrong, then how can we pray for those individuals? The people on the day of Uhud, through the Prophet ﷺ, they hit his face. His molars broke. His armor became broke. His face was full of blood. Rasulullah ﷺ became unconscious. He was thrown inside the ditch. The Sahaba said, O Nabi of Allah ﷺ, curse these people. He raised his hand and he said, Allahumma ghfir li qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamun. Oh Allah, forgive these people. They don't know who I am. Oh Allah, they don't know that I'm the Nabi of Allah. They are doing it because they don't know, Ya Allah. If they knew, they would have never done this, Ya Allah. He's making dua for them. So going back, the humanity is of two kinds. Those which are righteous in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we are no one to make that judgment. We are no one to make that judgment. And those who are evildoers in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are doing that. And then the words of Rasulullah saying, and at the end of the day, the doers of right and wrong, you all come from Adam, and Adam came from clay. Remember your reality. Once remember our reality, when every one of us know our reality, then we can never lose our position. Then Rasulullah said something on Hujraat al-Wada, which I will mention inshallah in tomorrow's last session. That Rasulullah also gave a very, very beautiful khutbah that I'll mention inshallah tomorrow in the afternoon. In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ stated, you are all the children of Adam, and Adam was created from dust. Let the people give up boasting of their ancestors. Don't talk about, I come from that khandan, I come from that relatives. SubhanAllah, not that I'm criticizing, but the first time ever that I went to Pakistan, the origin place where I was born, my parents are from, before people asked me for my name, they asked me for my clan. They says, oh, what Zat are you? I said, what's that? I don't know what you're talking about. That was the first thing people would ask you. I don't know if it exists in other places, but I know it's so common in the place that I went to. That before they would ask me my name, they would ask me the origin of my families, of what Zat and what type of tribe I come from, so that they can relate to me in a proper manner. So the hadith is mentioning, Rasulullah saying, let the people give up the boasting of their ancestors. Don't talk about the boasting of they have done this and this and that. Otherwise, they will stand more degraded than a mean insect in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like an insect, this is what they will be in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hadith al-Bazzar. Another hadith, Rasulullah said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not inquire about your lineage on the day of Qiyamah. The most honorable in the sight of Allah is he who is the most pious. Ibn Jarir. Still in another hadith, Rasulullah said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not see your outward appearances and your possessions, but he sees your heart and your deeds. The hadith of Muslim and Ibn Majah. Now let's how the practical implementation of this hadith and this ayat of the Quran. This is the last thing that I'll mention, and inshallah then we'll go towards the dinner. Practical implementation. I talked about all of these things. How do I implement this? How do I relate this ayat of the Quran? Chapter 49, verse 13 in 2018. Right? That's my goal. Why am I sitting here? What I'm going to take back home from this. So brothers and sisters, the practical implementation of this society that we need to understand is that we live in a society which is full of arrogance and ignorance. Arrogance and ignorance has become a part of a society that people want to excel in humanity by putting others down. And that is complete contrary to what the Quran and the life of Rasulullah says. Rasulullah said, "Man tawada lillah, faqad rafa'ahu Allah." Whoever humbles themselves for the sake of Allah, Allah's qasam, Allah will exalt them. Allah will give them izzat and respect. Completely contrary to anything that is taught anywhere across the globe at this moment. But our Nabi is teaching us the words which he is a sadiq wal masduq, the most truthful, the most trustworthy. The words of Rasulullah are haqq and true. The world can change, but the words of our Nabi can never change. Wallahi, our words of Nabi can never be changed. So what is he saying? Humble yourself. And what does humbling mean? Humble doesn't mean that a person is really arrogant and you just humble yourself. No, you treat people according to their status. But the hadith is mentioning that you live your life in which you make yourself conscious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you are conscious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then everything will be beautiful. My statement that I'll give you as a moral. Whenever I speak to youth, I speak to family members, I speak to the husbands and wife who are getting newly married, pre-marriage workshops and stuff, I tell them one statement. I tell them, look, one person's rights are the other person's responsibility. And I say this very often. I even remember saying this here. One person's rights, be it the right of the wife, that's the husband's responsibility. If your wife is demanding her rights, brothers, you have not fulfilled your responsibility. Sisters, if your husbands are demanding rights, sisters, you have not fulfilled your responsibility. Fathers and mothers, if your children are demanding their rights, you have not fulfilled your responsibility. Children, if your parents are demanding their rights, you have not fulfilled your responsibility. People will always fulfill the responsibility when they know who has placed the responsibility upon them. If someone was to give them a responsibility without holding them accountable, they would never do anything. I love this statement. One of my good friends said this statement. He said something so beautiful. He said, with every blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with every ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with every blessing comes a responsibility. With every blessing comes a responsibility. And with every responsibility comes accountability. With every blessing comes responsibility. No blessing comes without responsibility. Blessing of Islam comes with a responsibility. Blessing of being a father comes with a responsibility. Being a wife comes with a responsibility. Being a son comes with a responsibility. All these are blessings. Every blessing comes with a responsibility. And every responsibility comes with accountability. So coming back to what I was saying, that every single individual, whoever demands their rights, that means someone else is not fulfilling their responsibility. This ayat of the Quran is telling us that if you want to take away bigotry, if you want to take away racism, or racial discrimination, or injustices, or any sort of these things that are across the globe, which has become a part of the life of so many people, that we become so accustomed to wrongs that we don't even feel wrong anymore. The Quran is saying that you must become conscious of who you have to face on the day. The only thing that will allow you to come out of this ignorance and arrogance is the consciousness of your Lord. Being held accountable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's step one towards letting go of all the wrongs it keeps. I'm not going to go further. I'm going to stop here, inshallah. Tomorrow morning we'll continue further, inshallah, right after Fajr. Hopefully we'll be energized enough, inshallah, that I know you guys have been really, really tired for the whole day sitting and listening to great scholars and great work that has been done by the brothers and sisters, inshallah. Tomorrow, inshallah, we have an entire packed event as well. We have talk after Fajr, then we have talk, I think, 10-ish, 10:30, 10 o'clock, inshallah. If Samad will be here, then we'll have talk after Dhuhr, inshallah. We'll have dua after Asr. So we have an entire program lined up for tomorrow as well, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq, the ability, the understanding, the comprehension of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts towards the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts towards Quran and Sunnah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take us towards goodness in our life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the good clear in our eyes. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqa warzuqna ittiba'a. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to see the haqq as haqq and right, and allow us to follow it. Wa arina al-batila batil. And oh Allah, allow us to see batil and false as false, and allow us to stay away from it. Oh Allah, allow us to live our life according to Quran and Sunnah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward brothers and sisters for sitting for such a long time. As one of the scholars mentioned, that those who attend the programs as those who listen and students are almost all the time very sincere. But the ones who talk may lose their sincerity. So I ask Allah that Allah give me ikhlas and sincerity. For those who come to listen, they have to be sincere. But for those who may speak, they might lose their sincerity. May Allah give me ikhlas and all of us ikhlas and accept us in His eyes. SubhanAllah wa bihamdihi. SubhanAllah wa bihamdihi. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka.
Jazakallahu khair, Mufti Sahab. So in fact, yes, Brother reminded me that on the schedule we have question and answer session because alhamdulillah we have multiple ulama blessed with their presence. So inshallah, if brothers want to stay after dinner, because we don't want to hold dinner now, like Mufti Sahab mentioned, we don't want to have you between brothers and dinner. So inshallah, as on the schedule, the ulama will be spending night there doing a takab with us in the masjid. So if inshallah, if brothers have or sisters have questions, we could have those answered inshallah. If another can have the question, we can ask later on. Okay, so alhamdulillah, it seems Brother Surah's zeal for the questions is really very sincere. The dinner, brothers observing Jannah, they have to prepare for the food anyway, so we have about half an hour, and we can